We've all heard Australia referred to as the lucky country. Donald Horne, an Australian commentator, very famous for his books, coined that phrase in the 1960s. What we've forgotten is that he was using that ironically. What he said was other countries were inventing things, using their brains, making great advances, and all we were doing was sitting back and taking advantage of their work. We were lucky they were doing it, and we could just pick it up and run with it. In 1988, Bob Hawke, the then Prime Minister, was cornered by a bunch of scientists after a meeting who'd been laid off, a bit like we're seeing now with the layoffs around CSIRO and other scientists. And they said to the then Prime Minister, we need to be investing in our future, we need to become the clever country. And that rang a bell with him and his then Science Minister Barry Jones, and they did a lot of work to look at how we might do that. Come forward 10 years to 1998, and Professor Ian Lowe wrote a paper about the clever country, and he pointed out to Australians that these days, if you weren't using your brains, you were going to get left behind because you couldn't rely simply on commodities to carry the economy. Fast forward 16 years, give that man a medal, we're still having the same conversation. But this time we're not having any intelligent discussion around it. We've got governments proposing that investment in education should be a totally private cost, that there's no community benefit, and that's simply not right. Under the deregulation of university fees that was proposed in the budget this year, we're expecting to see fees go up by something like 40% across the board. It'll be even more for the agriculture sector because our degrees are more expensive. Uni of Melbourne, with their well-known agriculture degree, are expecting the costs of that degree, if you live on campus, to be between $97,000 and $112,000. That's an awful lot of money, particularly when you look at the fact that you could pack up and go and study the same course with the same conditions at Lincoln in New Zealand for around $60,000. And lots of our farmers have been to Lincoln, and lots of them have reckoned it's a pretty good place to go. So what we're seeing now is a situation where it's probably going to be cheaper and easier for people to get a bank loan and send their kids off to a foreign country, New Zealand is still a foreign country, to study and get their agricultural qualifications. That simply doesn't make sense. We need more agricultural scientists here. We need more people with degrees here working in the agriculture industry. Why on earth would we send them offshore and risk losing those brains and that experience back here where we need them? This is something we really need as a community to have a rethink about. We can't afford to rest on our laurels. We really need to be both the clever country and the lucky country.